Hello, hello, hello. Welcome into the Wasatch Football Show. This is Calvin Johnson joining you on this beautiful last day in July. It's almost over. Can you feel it? The drought is almost at an end. We are now less than 1 month away from college football season. Here at the Wasatch Football Show, we hope to be a new top-notch show in Utah County detailing everything you need to know about the teams you care about from BYU, the University of Utah, and the Utah State Aggies. Today's episode, as you see on your screen, we are previewing the 2017 BYU Cougars schedule with predictions for all 13 games. There is 13 games this year. We'll talk a little bit about why that is, as well as our look into what to expect from the Wasatch Football Show. So BYU opens the season on August 26th at home against FCS contest Portland State. The Vikings come into their first ever matchup against BYU, coming off a pretty tough 3-8 season. That 3-8 season was right after a 9-3 season. The 9-3 season being the last year in which Alex Caressa, a BYU transfer, was the quarterback for the Vikings. So the only way this game is possible, this extra home game, is because later this season BYU travels to Hawaii. Now, flying an entire college football team to Honolulu is very expensive on collegiate athletic departments. So to compensate, the NCAA allows you an extra home game if you travel to take on the Warriors. So that will happen, and it will be perfect opportunity for Tanner Mangum to get his first live action against a relatively capable opponent, but an opponent that you can still afford to make some mistakes against. The long time you've seen Mangum in the last 2 years was in the monsoon in San Diego at the Poinsettia Bowl, which, by the way, was the last ever Poinsettia Bowl, and a very rainy spring game. Neither of those looked especially sharp, but we are expecting Tanner Mangum to step up, and if reports from fall practice are true, Mangum is in for a big season. Well, he'll need that tune-up game as BYU faces their toughest test on the 2017 schedule as they take on national championship contender LSU. Now, it says something about just how strong the SEC West Division is. A lot of people see LSU as third best team, Bama, Auburn, then the Tigers of LSU. And yet, LSU is legit national title contender even from that position. And it all begins and ends with Darius Geis, the stud running back. Seems like LSU produces one every single year. And last year, Leonard Fournette, top 5 NFL draft pick, was injured. Darius Geis just blows everyone away in the SEC. Their quarterback, Danny Etling, is a true game manager. He's just going to rely on Geis and rely on that killer defense, which includes Kevin Tolliver and Dante Jackson at both corner positions, both future NFL defenders. They're going to test this young BYU receiving group. Shumway, Talon Shumway, that is, Jonah Trineman, Moroni Luhu Pututau, moving to tight end, is going to have to really step up and kind of create some mismatches amongst the linebackers, although linebackers won't be easy either. They have this guy named Erden Key, who people are saying is every bit as good a defensive playmaker as Texas A&M's Myles Garrett, the #1 overall pick. Key is injured for fall camp. We will know his status for the September 9th game, hopefully within the next few weeks. Having said all that, it's going to be rough going for BYU. I think they have the dogs to keep up for maybe half and change after that. After that, look for LSU to pull away and BYU to pick up their first loss on the season. I have LSU winning this game by a couple of touchdowns. And then sets up the one that every BYU fan has circled on the calendar, the Holy War against the University of Utah. BYU coming into the game on a 7-year losing streak in this heated rivalry. In that time, Utah has seen their team move into the Pac-12 and become a legit contender year in and year out in arguably the nation's second-best conference. Whereas BYU in Independence finds themselves with heavy loaded schedules and kind of aching for bowl games and aching for postseason play. This year, Utah has sent 80% of their offensive line from the previous year into the NFL. Are you kidding me? 80%. That's 4 out of 5. Utah dominating the battle of the trenches between the offensive line and defensive line, but finally this year maybe a little bit depleted on that offensive side. Troy Williams had his struggles last year in the pocket. I think he may continue to struggle with a new, lesser experienced offensive line, not to mention implementing a new offense from offensive coordinator Troy Taylor. Utah has no running back. Zach Moss, I think, is the best of the group. I think he's just pedestrian. Utah doesn't have a whole lot of returning players in the defensive secondary. Chase Hansen, reported today, may be injured. I do like Curry and Ballard, the junior college transfer, but I do not like the talent top to bottom on this Utah squad. The streak ends in 2017 in Kalani Sitake's second year as coach. BYU stops the bleeding, picks up the win at home against the Utes. That big win propels them into a huge home game against Wisconsin. The Badgers, Big Ten favorites, being considered a national championship dark horse. Now, they don't have to play Ohio State, they don't have to play Penn State in their own conference, but you can guarantee they'll probably end up playing one of those two in the Big Ten title game. Wisconsin plays that old school style of football. Grind it out, punch you in the mouth, make you outbeat me by your toughness, make you outlast me. For BYU, it's going to be a tough going. They're going to be banged up after that Utah game. You can tell there's going to be a lot of nagging injuries. I think Wisconsin is placed at a tough place in the schedule. I see the Badgers coming into Provo, a very unusual trip out west for Wisconsin, and beating BYU. And that leads to the second of two in-state matchups for the Brigham Young University Cougars, as they travel up to Logan to take on Utah State in what's become quite the heated rivalry. Utah State having fallen on some tough times in 2016, stumbling to their first bowlless season in 5 years. That was a school record, 5 straight bowl games. For Matt Wells, the Utah State coach, it's going to be another tough year. They do have Kent Myers at quarterback, who, when healthy, has been one of the better dual-threat QBs around. They have a couple of all-conference performers in Dallin Levitt, the BYU transfer safety, and Jalen Davis, the corner. I just don't see top to bottom this Aggie squad having what it takes to keep up of BYU's pace. Cougars pick up the win, improve to 2-2, and take that streak and luck up into the state famous for potatoes, Boise State Broncos, a series that's become an annual tradition between these two squads that have so much in common. Although traveling has not been a favorite thing to do for either team, as the visiting team has lost 6 straight contests. Boise State sophomore quarterback Brett Ripken is probably the best player you've never heard of, but does he have the weapons around him with the graduation of Jeremy McNichols to the NFL? I was looking at this game, I'll tell you what, my friends, I was looking at this game, and right away I said, this is going to be a loss. I circled this on my calendar. This is one that BYU's just not going to be able to keep up with. We're reading between the lines now, or I should say, doing my homework, reading everything I have on Boise State and on BYU. I'm not sure that's the case. It is a legitimate toss-up. I give the edge to the Broncos because in Boise State is difficult to beat. That bluegrass, the smooth turf. Usually a home field advantage gives you a 3-point nudge in whatever the Vegas line is. Boise State, it's got to be more of a 6-point nudge. I like the Broncos to pick up the victory here. Then BYU comes to the tail end of the beefy opening 2 or 3 months of their schedule as they travel east to take on SEC member Mississippi State. Mississippi State plays in that vaunted SEC West. We already talked about how good that is. Can you believe 3 national championship contenders coming out of a division of 7 teams? Mississippi State, usually picked about last in that division, usually overachieves. This year, they have, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the whole SEC. If you haven't heard of Nick Fitzgerald, you need to. This guy is a Taysom Hill-like player. He led his team in rushing with nearly 1,500 yards last year. Doesn't turn the ball over all that often. On defense, I really like this Leo Lewis kid. Last year, he was second in the team in tackles as just a freshman. Top to bottom, Mississippi State, the Bulldogs, have a really formidable team, as you would expect any team from the SEC to carry. However, having matched up against them in Provo just last year, I do like BYU here. I like BYU to come out of that heavy gauntlet with 1, 2, 3, 4 wins against 3 losses, and then the schedule lightens up from there. East Carolina. ECU coming off a really rough season, bringing in a new head coach. Last year, bringing in a new head coach, only getting 3 wins. They do bring in Duke quarterback transfer Thomas Sirk. Sirk has often been called the East Coast Taysom Hill with his playing style and his unfortunate luck with injuries. ECU is going to score a lot of points. They return 5 of their top 6 receivers. They're not going to stop teams from getting a lot of points either. It's going to be a rough year for the Pirates from Carolina. This game could be a lot like last year's Toledo game. You could be seeing a lot of offensive fireworks. Defense, meh. BYU does get the win. Then bringing home, they enter a de facto Mountain West schedule. Starting with San Jose State and Fresno State, October 28th and November 5th, respectively, the 2 teams each picked at the bottom of the West Division of the Mountain West. Both these teams do present unique challenges. Fresno State is welcoming in Coach Jeff Tedford from Cal after taking a couple years off of head coaching. San Jose, on the other hand, pretty much is in a rebuilding year with first-time head coach. They're going to depend on their running back, Malik Robertson, who I think is a stud in the backfield. But neither of those teams have enough to keep up with BYU. 2 easy wins. And then finishing out that Mountain West schedule, you have UNLV coming in at November 10th. The Rebels are all the Rebels. You know exactly what you're going to get with UNLV. That will be a win for BYU. Then a quick break from Mountain West action to take on the UMass Minutemen. Massachusetts, considering moving down to FCS is the rumor. They're currently an independent team after getting basically kicked out of a conference. That game is in Provo. Eventually, BYU does head back to Massachusetts, but not this year. And no chance UMass wins that game. And then the big grand finale, the trip to Honolulu in November 25th. The one place I'd want to be at that part of the year is the Hawaiian Islands. It's just only been a difficult game for BYU. End of the season, a lot of things to focus on. You kind of lose that edge when you're in paradise. Hawaii, always tough to travel to. They have Dylan Collie, the younger brother of Austin Collie, arguably the best receiver, arguably the best player in BYU history. Coach Rolovich, he's got good things going on in the Hawaiian Islands. Last year, Hawaii had 7 wins in 1 season compared to 8 wins in 3 seasons. Before Rolovich took over the helm, Hawaii is trending up. Hawaii, however, is not going to be competing with BYU. So after that gauntlet 4-3 opening, BYU will rattle off 6 straight wins to finish in double-digit wins for the first time since 2010. BYU finishes 10-3, heads to a bowl game. This has been your Super Dash Crystal Ball. You know, I love this time of year. Let me tell you that, friends. It's the best time of year to be a football fan. The anticipation of these last few weeks of summer, the excitement, the intrigue, the fact that we don't know. We don't know squat what's going to happen in the upcoming year. And that's what makes football such an amazing game. The fact that a team can be an afterthought, be a waste of space one year, and then turn around and be a national championship contender the very next year. Just ask the Auburn Tigers after their 3-9 disaster. Very next year, national championship contender. It is interesting to see the difference between BYU and Utah since the move out of Mountain West play. I do believe the gap is shrinking. I believe Kalani Sitake, keep in mind, he's only 3 years removed from being Utah's defensive coordinator. Every upperclassman on Utah's defense, except for transfers, were personally recruited by Kalani Sitake. I think the culture is changing for BYU. I think good things are ahead. I think this year will be a setup year that allows BYU to continue into the future and, yes, finally take that mythical last step that BYU fans have been talking about for basically the last 2 decades. Well, this has been the Wasatch Football Show 2017 BYU Crystal Ball. We thank you for tuning in. Please go down and hit that little subscribe button. It'd probably be about somewhere in that area. Yeah, you know what it is. It's your computer. It's your phone. Once again, this is Calvin Johnson. This is the Wasatch Football Show 2017 BYU Crystal Ball. Have a good night, everybody.